Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, check. Hello, check. Hello, check. হচ্ছে হ্যালো চেক হ্যালো চেক হ্যালো চেক
Introduction manan aru manan check na capital age ekta yada hoy na capital dila project ta dhore na arekta na slow jay copy korte bolo identified banan bhul challenges identified
Hello, check.
তোমাদের এক্স প্রেসিডেন্ট ছিল না স্যার এখানে কমানো ছিল ইমাম ইমাম স্যার আরেক প্রেসিডেন্ট পরে আসলো আনিস স্যারের পরে স্যারের পরে আসলো আনিস স্যার আনিস স্যারের পরে সোহেল স্যার আর জামিজাল মাকসুদ মাকসুদ স্যার স্যার মানে বেনিফিটটা তো পাইছে পরের ভিজিটে স্যার কারেক্ট স্যার এনারা কিন্তু পায় না এখানে ওটা তো যে আপগ্রেড হয়ে গেল স্যার হ্যাঁ সোহেল স্যার তো যে আপনার ওই যে তখন পরে তখন ব্রিগেডিয়ার ছিল বাট আপগ্রেড আমি করব মানে ব্যস্ত থেকে কেউ কিন্তু যায় না ওরা যেটা করেছিল আমার ওই যে হোটেলটা স্পন্সর করা don't bother for explain না তারা ওরা কটার ব্যাক করতে
ট্রেনার্স স্যার বড় চ্যালেঞ্জ ধমক শিখে ফেলেছে।
মাল্টিপল হয়ে গেছে।
মাল্টিপল বানানটা ঠিক করে।
স্যার একটা পার্টনারশিপ নিয়ে একটা পয়েন্ট দেন।
পিএলই
পার্টনারশিপ
হয়ে গেছে। মাল্টি পিএলই অপারেটর।
পিএলই
ওকে যাও স্লাইড শোতে যাও।
বাট এখানে এখন হচ্ছে প্রতিটা কন্টিজেন্টে এটা ইউএভি মাস্ট অথবা বাইক টু ইউএস এই জিনিসটা তোমার কথা কথা আছে এটা
মিনিমাম লেভেল আমি যেটা বলছি
তারপরে
স্ট্রাকচার
তারপরে আরেকটা বলি তোমাকে এটা একটা গেল আরেকটা এই জন্য কারণ দিবা ভোটারে তোলার জন্য তাদেরকে যেমন স্টাফ অফিসার ট্রেনিং করা হচ্ছে অবজারভার ট্রেনিং করা হচ্ছে ওখানে গিয়ে তারা ইউনাইট অ্যাওয়ার যে সিস্টেমটা ইউজ করতেছে তারা কিন্তু এক্সপোজার ফার্স্ট টাইম কিন্তু এখানে
ওইখানে একটা প্ল্যাকার্ড দাও ইসি মেম্বার্স। আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে
স্যার ওই যে পার্টনারশিপ নিয়ে একটা ইয়ে পার্টনারশিপ বিটুইন
আমি ইউএন কে বেশ কিছু বলছি মানে সে একটা ব্যানার এস্টাবলিশ করার জন্য।
শুধু যে ওটা আছে না কারণ আমি কিন্তু ওখানে জোরই দিচ্ছি একটা বলে ইউনাইট অ্যাওয়ার জানতো এটা আমার একটু টপার মেনু হিসেবে নাই আমি ওর সাথে ইনভলভ জান কাপের ওটার সাথে ইনভলভ কারণ ওরা কারণ আছে আমি আমার রিকমেন্ডেশন বানায় কি হবে এই কারণ সেটিংয়ে স্ট্যান্ডার্ড এলন মডিউল দিলে এখন মনে তোমার অবজারভার যে কোনো এটা দিয়ে দিলে
যে বলতে হবে ল্যাক অফ
which are used in the mission area and which are not area আমি কভার করবো যে আমার সামারিতে আরেকটা তোমার ওই সাবসিকুয়েন্ট ডিসকাশন এটা ধর আমি ওখানে একটা জিনিস ঠিক করবো রাখার জন্য আমি স্যারকে কোশ্চেন দিলাম মানে রাখার জন্য আমি এখান থেকে একটা ধরো স্যারকে একটা কোশ্চেন দিলাম মানে তোমার দিলাম যে তুমি এটা ওই অনুযায়ী মাথায় রেখে এখন তো স্লাইড চেঞ্জ করতে গেলে কিন্তু প্যাচ লেগে যাবে এটা যে দেখে না এটা এখন কমপ্লিট হয়নি ওটা যদি বানায় তোমাকে দেওয়া হয় স্ট্যান্ডার্ড কারণ এটা তোমার লগ ইন করতে গেলে ওরা পারমিশন অনেক কিছু লাগে বা তোমার যদি দিয়ে দেওয়া হয় স্ট্যান্ডার্ড একটা মডিউল বানা দিয়ে দেবে তুমি কিন্তু এখন ওই ওইটার ভিতরে কালার সেটিং তারপর তুমি তোমার কন্ট্রোল কমান্ডার তুমি এখন অবজার্ভার কোর্স করবা ওই ট্যাপে গেল স্টাফ অফিসার কোর্স ওই ট্যাপে গেল কন্টিজেন্ট করবা ওই ট্যাপে গেল কাস্টমাইজ তারপর তুমি তোমার ইউনিয়নের প্রবলেম কি জানো আমি তো সত্যি করে বলি আমি বলছি এত র্যাপিডলি তার আগাইছে ওইখানে বসে নিউ ইয়র্ক এবং মিশন বাকিরা কিন্তু তোমার এই যে কারণ ওখানে লেগে সব পয়সা লাগতেছে ন্যাটো মাথা ভালো ন্যাটো টাইপ কিন্তু আমরা তো লেগে তোমার আমার থার্ড ওয়ার্ল্ড এই জন্য গিয়ে তোমার
হচ্ছে কি ওরা আসছে এখন একটা ছোট একটা কাজ করি ওদেরকে বাস থেকে নামার পরে তো সামনে একটু কুইকলি দিয়ে চলে আসছে
আসছে বলছে তোমাকে এটা আমি কোনো কাজ যখন আমার বলো না আমি
some other purpose, we would humbly request you to sit from the center just to keep that designated row for EC member vacant. Just from the first row, if you are, sorry for the inconvenience, just from the first row in the center, you can start sitting, just keeping those two row for the EC members. From the very first row, you can sit. Oh, towards the center, to the center block. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, if just you can kindly shift towards the center block. This block. distinguished participants, may I humbly request you to please settle down. We're going to, very soon, we are going to start with our administrative brief. Please settle down.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. During the introduction yesterday of the Executive Committee, I made the point that I have been involved in this process since the very, very beginning in March 1995, and as such, I have seen a considerable evolution of the association concept. Many innovations, many changes, new ideas, based in large part on the feedback that we get, at the end of the conference, annual general meeting from you, the members of the association. And one of the innovations over the years is a thing called IAPTC, which, if you've noticed, is scheduled afternoon after the formal conference program has been completed, including the closing ceremony. This is an opportunity for any to discuss something of particular interest to you, your organization, personally. What to do for the last 5 years is to provide facilities for you to committed time, best part of in some cases. So, an opportunity for the other reason, of course, is that in the room we have significant work, training experience, peace operations knowledge. It's all here in one place. And if you have a question, you have a concern, you have an interest in a particular thing that we haven't touched on this, or we haven't done adequately this, then this is an opportunity for you. So what I'm going to ask you to do is talk to either myself or General Khalil, or the Secretariat IAPTC, indicate an interest in a discussion, whatever. I would ask you to do that by tomorrow, so that late in the day or early Thursday morning, we can do what subjects have been added to the end of the program that may be of interest to you. We ask for a show of hands so that we can use required. One point. The second is that really are looking at hosts beyond Kenya next. We have some indications, but if you are interested at all in the future in hosting, we have a significant amount of knowledge about past hosting experiences. I've done more than wooden tables. outside this room and ask you to drop your information on the rules and so on and so on. 2006, a Canadian police officer suggested going beyond that, having an opportunity for people to explain not only their programs, but ideas in technology or technology in support of learning. And we now have, as you have seen, quite an array of things in the Ideas Bazaar. And please think about next year. If you have ideas you'd like to discuss in the Ideas Bazaar, or if you have things you want to present and share with us in the Ideas Bazaar, please do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David, the honorary member of Executive Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, just a very quick few points about the administrative brief. Today we have from session 3 to session 5. Before lunch you have 2 sessions, and after lunch you have 1 session. And after lunch we have one important event, that building, and which is very adjacent to the entry. And we have few schedules, like BIPSOT is the secretariat of AAPTC. So AAPTC Secretariats Conference will be held with Australia, the next host, and the GPOI during the tea break, during the coffee break. And for the next IAPTC, few of the executive committee members will have an informal session during lunch with Nepal. And today the executive committee meeting is scheduled from 1800 to 1900 hours in the executive committee meeting room, in room number 208 in the first floor. And another important aspect, that is move time from Braxidium every day at 0745 hours. I would humbly request all of you to start by, latest by 0745 hours. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning to you all. In fact, now I'm here with the recap of the day 1. That means yesterday's sessions and some other points. And before that, one request from the host side. I think in the website apps, we need a feedback of. So it will take this time. If you kindly visit your website, the option is, I think you can send to address in the Google form, fill up your form, because that is required for us. Now about the day 1 summary. Responsible use of data. And we had 3. One is General Van Ruzen, then we have the military advisor and the police advisor. And Van Ruzen, he covered like the digital transformation, the project he mentioned. There are in the phase 1, like enablers here, digital data ecosystem and innovation. And the projects he mentioned about 3 things: enhancing situational awareness, countering mis- and or disinformation, and finally leveraging technology for uniform peacekeepers. And finally, he focused on the last part. And the project goal of this one was strengthen uniform peacekeepers' performance through digital technologies, improve capabilities for uniform peacekeepers through digital technologies, and also drive digital technological innovation for uniform peacekeepers. Then about the initial findings regarding his project, they identified in the 3 areas: safety, security, and performance, process and structures, and skills and capabilities. Then he had 6 concrete recommendations in the project. First one is the enhancement of to existing system, piloting emerging technologies, then institutionalization, uniform peacekeepers-driven innovation, new partnership structures, then process reengineering and simplification and technological solutions, including emerging trends and advancement in technology that can be deployed holistically. Then he has mentioned that with the Department of Operational Support and UN Global Services Center, they are currently working on some of the projects he mentioned, like already in MONUSCO, they have deployed geolocation and threat analysis unit and tactical intelligence unit. Then there will be a deployment of all-terrain shared vehicle that is underway in UNMISS. Then this is very important for the Mali mission, the counter IED through the electronic countermeasures and the mine resistance vehicles. Then other camp securities like radar, mini, US, access control system, indirect firing warning system in MINUSMA, and also he has mentioned that in UNISFA, first time they are going to have a smart camp project. Then also they are targeting to deploy the targeting assets, weapons like US, counter US to deny the threat surveillance, then telemedicine, then improving situational awareness through the awareness, the United, and also countering disinformation on social media. Then he identified some strategy. First is gap by IAPTC to operate the technology. Technology is situational awareness is another key outcome of this particular strategy. The situational awareness program, basically the Unite Aware, which is a data mining software, web-based incident tracking system, and cross-cutting data visualization and analysis tool, which integrates previous SAGE system and computer-based incident reporting system. Then also, they mentioned that they are also working the UNPOL with all these missions regarding the transnational organized crime, with which includes the unmanned aerial vehicles to cover the areas which are not accessible. Then also they have mentioned that they are working in the Central African Republic in collaboration with the Interpol to train the host nation police. Then he said that actively use of social media for countering this mis or disinformation. Then he identified some challenges, like national authorities aim to support because the infrastructure is not there to provide the best technological solution there. And the recommendation, he said that any high-end tech initiative deployed in a mission police component must not discourage the deployment of potentially more viable low-tech national solutions. And we had the breakout discussion, and these are the key issues, like TCC or PCCs need to comprehend fully regarding the digital transformation strategy. The majority of the TCCs and PCCs do not have access from VTC, one from MINUSCA and from UNMISS. And as MINUSCA is a pilot where all the pilot projects are ongoing. So Mr. Suleiman, he mentioned about that, how they are using the Unite Aware, SAGE, Umuza, and all these softwares, systems. Then he gave the digital example of digital transportation, which has got the potentials like field remote infrastructure monitoring, CPAS, then also field operation management application, FOMA, for the MEDEVAC. He identified challenges. First is change management. There is a fragmented approach from the UN headquarters up to the field level. Then integration of 3 component, military, police, and civilian is important. Then also training needs. Now he mentioned about some good practices like use of digital tools, creating convergence for plans and use drive
efforts to get more SharePoint online use of one power dashboard, agreeing harmonization with headquarters across the mission, also linking the United States with the CPAS to better. And he also mentioned are very temporary in the mission, 6 to 1 month rotation, but the civilian counterpart, they remain for a long time, have a matured and institutional memory. Then also he mentioned about the delay in the CO equipment rotation. Then also overindulgence of the efforts that could be minimized by resource sharing approach. Then also he mentioned why the technology should be used for the reach, surveillance, mobility, safety, precision guidance, and cost-saving training. We had the Army's police commission about the key challenges identified for the foreign police, like equipment challenges, the influence on technology. Then she mentioned about good good care and maintenance, also some bad practice like use and unskillful handling. Now, she also gave some training requirements regarding engagement of expert to provide the user training of specific mission environment, basic skills training for technology in use, and also recommended for the police countries like acquisition from manufacturers or any duty debriefing. The retired UN philosophy is not open to change or tech. It is a too protective and resistance. Then host government restriction, which will limit the security-related technology. Then technical requirement could be met by joint cooperation or deployment, co-deployment. The training requirement could be met by engaging experts, providing basic training for civilian after contract, acceptance, and before and products which are common to all US, which will allow a common to training and need to understand that the technology is not answer to escaping issues. These are the summaries uploaded on the website. Day 1B, and you can download this one and get that. Thank you very much.
Our session 3 today is on digital transformation from the training community. It goes without saying that the training community's perspective is the most important factor in the digital transformation of peacekeeping, because it is the training community who will train the peacekeepers in the use of technology so that they can use it effectively in peacekeeping. 3 distinguished speakers are present today to discuss this important topic. Brigadier General Farooq Chowdhury will act as moderator of this session. Brigadier General Farooq holds a master's degree from University of Madras, India, and a graduate of Defense Staff College in Bangladesh and India. In his long military career, he had a blend of professional responsibilities in management and leadership of operational and training functions, both at government and international levels. He possesses extensive experience in UN peacekeeping, especially in the fields of training and operation. As the Senior Training Officer of Integrated Training Service of Department of Peace Operation, from 2008 to 2012, he led a team of military police training experts to provide guidance to members in their deployment training. Over 100 member states area of peacekeeping institutes. From 2017 to 2020, Brigadier General Farooq was the head of train of the training center in Entebbe, Uganda. Brigadier General Farooq was also associated with the delivery of pre-deployment training of international and civilian staff members deploying to field induction of UN peacekeeping missions. Brigadier General Farooq worked as an UN consultant for Vietnamese armed forces for developing a peacekeeping strategy for Vietnam. He was also involved in the development of training materials for UN National Investigation Officers Courts. Currently, he is working as a freelancer, consultant, and advisor on peace operations, training, and security matters. Brigadier General Farooq is married and has 2 children. We have no doubt that given his distinguished career in peacekeeping and peacekeeping training, he would be the best person to moderate important session. Without further ado, I request Brigadier General Farooq to begin this session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Colonel, for introducing me. Good morning, all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm supposed to start at 9. So I'm sure the authority will not be harsh on me if I overshoot the time in the sense that I have been. So I'm sure today I get a more attentive audience in this morning. I personally thank the IAPTC Executive Committee and also particularly the President-elect, the Commandant of Big Shot, General Ridwan, for allowing me to attend this conference, which I had been doing for many years. Today's topic is digital transformation perspective from the training communities. So here, most of us are training practitioners, so very close to our heart and our passions. The topic for discussion today is far cry from the sorts of things that we are facing decades ago. Myself was working in a complex peacekeeping mission, and it is yesterday during session 1 and 2, we have had adequate opportunity to understand what digital transformation really means in our context as peacekeepers. So that's our knowledge for this session, and no need for a long introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, mounting digital challenges. The panel members, and I'll do it very briefly. I'll not do just the record catch and what they have in their bios in the interest of time. First speaker will be Mr. Mark Perez. And Mark, you are in 2 days' time, so I'll be very brief, and I'm sure many of you new today. Mr. Mark Pedersen, my former boss, is the chief of within the policy evaluation training division. He is, to my understanding, is the face of peacekeeping training. The majority of his United Nations service has been in the field. He has worked as a civil affairs officer and political affairs officer. At headquarters in New York, he has worked on policy, political, training, mission support issues. And on training is being submitted, he team of trainers. Prior to joining, many of served in the army in the artillery. The second speaker is third from the right, Giovanni Pietro Barbano. Brigadier General Barbano is a highly qualified and experienced officer in the Italian Carabinieri Forces. He has held numerous command and staff assignments at National, Mark, and Mr. Brigadier Barbano is Brigadier General Khalilur Rahman. He is serving in Bangladesh Army for last 30 years. His career has a mix of experience in the field unit, headquarters, and training institution, both at home and abroad. He has very good and rich field experience. He served 3 times in United Nations missions in East Timor, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ivory Coast. Currently, General Khalil leads the team of trainers in BIPSOT as the chief instructor. The fourth speaker, unfortunately, Mr. Wendell Langa, who was supposed to be the main speaker from Accord, is feeling under the weather now, a little bit sick. So Mr. Isaac he has taken, and he's so kind to, in a short notice, taken the responsibility to present on the civilian perspective. So can I ask you to introduce yourself? I'm not prepared on him. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm intern for conflict management training program at the U.S. Institute of Peace, Washington, D.C. So I'm a trainer for the Anglophone African keeping countries that we work with, about 21 countries. And this is one of like the US 2018 supported the UN peacekeeping mission and AU.
So, and this is the topic on training. Please follow the also write down. Over to.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to speak for about 10 minutes on how we're going to incorporate digital transformation into our peace operations training. What I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the aims of the strategy, the baseline, where we stand right now, where we want to go to and how we might possibly get there, some of the issues in training, challenges, which are quite large, and the techniques. So first, the strategy itself. What does it aim to do? It aims to enhance situational awareness capability by giving decision makers real-time operational information. It'll help safety and security, and operationally we want to be able to focus on protection of civilians, which is our core mandated task. We know that we include the member states as the primary actor, and we need member state engagement and support for equal opportunities when it comes to the use of technology as well as the responsible application of technology. We need to level the playing field, and this is a big generic concept, but we need to level the playing field and develop a peacekeeping workforce which has the digital tools and know-how to carry out their work effectively. And we need to, for those issues, come down to the funding and budgeting for equipment. And there are big decisions to be made. Are we going to insist on contingent-owned equipment, or are we going to focus on UN-owned equipment? You see there on the screen some of the examples of technology from Uruguay, Ghana, Germany, and Vietnam. So this stuff is already in use, but it's siloed and it doesn't link up effectively. And for training, for those of us in the training world, we know that digital literacy is pretty limited across our personnel. We also know that we don't do a good job of reflecting the skills or the training needed, either in the terms of reference for individually deployed personnel or within the units for the statement of unit requirements. And And we also know that institutional knowledge is lost as we go through rotations. And this was a point which was made yesterday, particularly by Commissioner Fossen when she spoke about the situation in South Sudan. The next question, of course, is where do we want to go to? And when General Van Roosen was talking yesterday, he made it very clear that we're in the early stages of the application of this strategy. And as trainers, if we need to figure out where we want to go to, one of the first things to do is a training needs assessment. And that will be something which we could possibly do in the summer of next year. My colleague Herbert Loret, who's here, he runs the Light Coordination Mechanism, which already has a well-established track of surveying member states to both identify where there are capacity requirements, surveying member states where there are capacity providers that could help to fill some of those gaps. So we're not quite ready yet to do how these can be satisfied. We also know that training on the use of technology tends to be one-off, it lacks contextualisation, and it lacks organisational commitment. And when I met with the civilian group yesterday, this point about contextualisation was a key one. There's no point in training people on technology if you don't relate that to the job that they're going to do. Technology also offers really useful opportunities to enhance women's participation in peacekeeping, but we have to identify these and exploit them. And this is a point that I make on all training issues, whether it be digital or operational training. We need to include women in the training efforts by providing them with equal access to training, operational deployments, and career development opportunities as men. And in the digital field, once women are trained, they should be deployed in all ranks and all functions. And too often we look around and we find that women are deployed to the field, but they're not in the operational task where we would like to see them working. And as we move forward on the digital strategy, we shouldn't fall into the trap of using the acquisition of digital skills as a reason to stop women being deployed into frontline roles. We shouldn't link digital work with back office work. We need to be able to deploy women in the full range of operational tasks in all functions and all ranks. We also know that not all troop and police contributing countries have equal access to digital technology in training, and we need to find ways of working together for pre-deployment and in-mission training, and that will require partnership relationships. And so there are already platforms in place on which we can build these partnership arrangements, but we need to have more. On the doctrine and training front, we all know that doctrine drives training. Without doctrine, training is just somebody's good idea. We need to establish those standards. And we need to make sure that we develop doctrine and training with member state support. And we need to do this because we need to make sure that our doctrine and our training is applicable to the full range of troop and police contributing countries and can be delivered in the full range of troop and police contributing countries. As I listened to some of the breakout groups yesterday, I got a sense that some of us were forgetting the fact that the United Nations has to support 122 troop and police contributing countries in the field. And that means that our doctrine and our training material needs to be applicable to Qatar, which deploys 1 staff officer, or to Bangladesh, which deploys more than 7,000 personnel. So we need to make sure of broad applicability, which is why we need to engage with member states as we develop doctrine and training. We also know that the use of technology in training remains an optional feature. It's not a standard feature. And we need to make sure that we are focusing on our core operational tasks as we develop that doctrine and we develop that training. And those core tasks relate to protection of civilians, which is underpinned by peacekeeping intelligence, situational awareness, safety and security, and peacekeeping intelligence. For us, where we've just started a very large project with donor support, is countering misinformation and disinformation, UN-owned equipment. Some of the questions that we have to grapple with. Do we standardise on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 items of specific equipment, or do we decide to standardise on equipment specifications? These are all issues which we still need to come to terms with. In terms of training, I mean, COVID was a great opportunity, I think, for all of us to move to the use of e-learning, either e-learning as a pure form of training delivery or as a hybrid form. We're already using in ITS hybrid e-learning. We offer courses for 40 people. We ask people to take online programs, and we take the top 25. So we use e-learning as a means of screening out those who may lack the skills or the motivation to actually attend the face-to-face programs. So there's a lot of opportunity here to combine e-learning and face-to-face programs in ways which are beneficial for everybody. We need also there to think about our trainers. Our trainers need to have the capability to use digital tools, which means we need to think again about how we prepare our trainers. And for those of us who are in ITS, we need to look again at the sorts of people that we are recruiting. The same goes for the people who go into the mission training centres. We need also to grapple with a particular issue, which is in our joint operations centres, the joint mission assessment centres, we're using very specific UN IT products, and yet these centres are multifunctional. They have military, police and civilians in them. How do we give those military and police officers who are in them, how do we give those training that they need to hit the ground running and actually be able to use this? Because we have to reflect the organisation that we are, which means broad geographic diversity. So we have to set into place universal standards for digital literacy, but which are not discriminatory. And in the civilian group that I was in yesterday, we started to come round on some ideas about that. But we need to be very aware that as we move towards greater technical requirements, we don't start excluding member states or individuals from the opportunity to work in the UN. And some of the challenges, we can't be blind to the fact that as we become more technologically literate and we introduce more technology, we also become more vulnerable to data theft and cyber attack. And the C4ISR Academy is about to become the C5 ISR Academy as it adds the 5th C, which is about cyber. How do we defend ourselves against cyber attacks? The Chief of Bangladesh Army yesterday when he was talking made the point that technology is a great leveller. But we also need to remember that the technology that's available to us is also available to the armed groups, those that strike us in places like Mali or the Central African Republic. There is a danger that we passively adopt technology. But as we adopt technology, we also need to be proactive and have a defensive strategy. And it may well be a defensive strategy which is more active than the UN is currently used to. General Van Roosen, when he spoke yesterday, was talking about the use of armed drones for convoy protection. I remember the battles that we had at the Special Committee just to get drones approved because countries thought that we were going too far. It's already clear, though, we need now to move beyond that, and I think military standards and police standards will add on top digital complexity, which will carry with it costs and additional time. And one last point, we are a body which includes 194 countries. We have 122 member states currently contributing in peacekeeping. But it means we have to be open. We have to be open to member state scrutiny, and to a sense, we also have to be open to host nation scrutiny. And that openness may well discourage some of the more technologically advanced member states from sharing their technology with us because of the risk that it will leak out to those who they seem to be opposed to them. Christine Fossum, when she was talking yesterday, also talked about host nation anxieties about our greater use of technology and the restrictions they may wish to place upon us. I can remember, and Major General Foster will also remember, in a mission where we needed to get an all-weather CASEVAC capability, the nation which is hosting that mission denied us the ability to bring a helicopter in with all-weather capability because the sensors which were on that helicopter came from a nation which they saw as being an enemy state. These are the real things that we need to grapple with as we move forward with this. So there are a lot of challenges to it, to what it is that we want to do. I just want to sum up now with a technological issue, which is where do we go to next, sort of the next steps for us. The first big one is we need to know what the baseline is. What is the baseline amongst the 122 countries which we have contributing to peacekeeping? One is we need to know what the baseline is, those who are qualified to deploy. The police division is already making good progress on this by linking attendance at online courses through with the generation of certificates and then ultimately selection for deployment. The biggest issue coming up for us, though, in financial terms is making decisions about what's going to be UN-owned equipment and what's going to be contingent-owned equipment. And to ensure harmonisation, we may end up having to go down the UN-owned equipment route. But we also need to recognise that there are nations out there who may feel that their national requirements are best met by contingent-owned equipment rather than UN-owned equipment. So as General Van Roozen's project proceeds on, we have one hard deadline, which is the contingent-owned equipment working group, which is planned for January of next year. And we need to have figured out by then how best we're going to start putting into place the equipment side of this. So I will stop there. Happy to take questions at the conclusion of this session and pass to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. A number of takeaway points, especially when he talked about the challenges and also some of the points, very important points in the form of the next steps. So now, Brigadier General Bourbon will speak. Thank you.
Directly to the topic. The participation in peace operations often compel police commanders to adopt this, mitigate the information risks that follow, ensure accountability, and preserve public trust in an era of asymmetric threat. The emergence of technologies such as the artificial intelligence techniques required police peacekeepers to anticipate new challenges in cyberspace, to improve their own security as well as the one of the population they serve. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the use of internet has increased worldwide by 40%. So it is now time to take urgent actions to protect our cyberspace, as called by the United Nations Secretary General in his 2020 report to the General Assembly, a roadmap for digital cooperation. Accordingly, the United Nations 2.0 Quintet of Change, part of the 2021 United Nations Secretary General report, Our Common Agenda, indeed lists data analytics and communications, innovation and digital transformation, strategic foresight, behavioral science, performance and results orientation as the key factors of change. Furthermore, the United Nations new digital transformation strategy for peacekeeping, in the same vein, underscores the need for a data-driven approach, especially given the increasing amount of data from the proliferation of internet access data from smartphone usage in the countries of development of peace operations, which transformation strategy in the field missions in all the three possible police mandates, namely interim law enforcement, operational support to local law enforcement agencies, and capacity building and development. Enhanced cybersecurity capabilities are likely to be required by any current and future missions, and police are expected to be among the actors that will contribute to, benefit from, and maintain them. In this regard, it's worth mentioning on the workshop on information technology needs of United Nations Police held in Valencia in 2019 under the auspices of the United Nations Standing Police Capacity, were presented systems for command and control used by the United Nations assets deployed on the field. The collection, evaluation, integration of, and management of information, and the control of territory, such as Unite Aware, the SAGE, SAGE stands for Situational Awareness, Geospatial Environment, and other similar systems, hardware and software. Still, these products need to be developed further in order to enhance the capabilities of the police components and to ensure the proper interoperability with the military and other mission components. Seemingly is to increase flexibility Another aspect of the digital transformation that shall involve the police component is the ability to use machine assistance to overcome logistics challenges of the host nation police, for instance, producing equipment for local police and for itself through 3D printing. A further key area for upskilling on new technology the police peacekeeping today relates on the fight against cybercrime, and as a minimum, skill sets around modern cyberspace intelligence gathering methodologies and software familiarity are required. Being able to navigate information landscapes affected by disinformation is also essential for an accurate and to guide responses and inform the conduct of the operational activities to the intelligence-led policing approach, enhancing the force protection in situations where peacekeepers are targeted, counter attempts to put discredit on the mandate implementation and peacekeepers' conduct and reputations. Additionally, for cyber police security capabilities are also deemed vital for peace operation. Shall therefore be the essential actors among those expected to possess and manage them. Advantages in natural language processing, which are to understanding of the operational environment and ultimately smarter emergency response. Another aspect to consider is the need to protect encrypted mission databases that might include very sensitive data, such as the criminal proceedings or police files against attacks by malicious states and non-state actors. A breach of the protection system from external actors will impact quite negatively on the effectiveness and credibility of the entire mission. Whereas in all United Nations missions, police are mandated to perform capacity building and development of local law enforcement agencies, when they are engaged in mentoring, advising, and training of national police or gendarmerie, police peacekeepers need to transfer know-how to tackle cybercrime that may target critical infrastructure and systems that provide stability in society. In order to deliver on the police mandate, with an integrated approach, the police component shall also be collaborative relationships with the other United Nations branches that are in the front line of the digital transformation, such as the Digital Blue Helmets unit in the Office of Information and Communications Technology. This is a pre-requirement in order to enhance cybersecurity preparedness, resilience, and committing resources needs yet to take place. For the safe dissemination and the use of the new potential offered by cyberspace, it is necessary to limit the sources of risks. It is assessed that the greatest risks in the use of the new technology come from human errors, which are present in more than 90% of cybersecurity breaches. The repercussions of errors in security procedures often cause enormous damage to the organizations victims of cyber threats, or cyber attacks, This entails the paramount importance of training and education in the digital transformation domain. The enhanced awareness allows users to learn how to behave in cyberspace, how to protect themselves from potential threats, and consequently protect the mission by raising the level of security. The training of digital awareness takes place through courses to learn the principle of cybersecurity and peacekeeping training institution for personnel to be deployed in peace operation and special political mission cannot ignore the provision in their training packages of the key elements of cybersecurity and cyber hygiene practices. QESPU, for instance, has substantially increased the hours of training dedicated to this very topic. Are able to faithfully recreate the reality of a sound post-conflict situation appropriate to exercise police peacekeepers. The majority is limited to recreating simplistic visions of conflicts where the role played is confined to participating to exercise police. The majority is limited to recreating simplistic vision of conflict where the role played is confined to participating following the attack-defense dichotomy, without having to care about the legitimacy principles, legal coverage, proportionality of the use of force, or simply moral consequences. To this regard, capitalizing on the current information technology knowledge, in order to recreate the multifaceted dynamics of a peace mission or alternative scenarios activated by the player's choice, would reach tangible and concrete results. Surely, the involvement for the audience will be quite higher compared to, for example, the ordinary frontal lecture. Gaming could actually constitute the added value of the police training sector, both from an educational and training point of view and from an academic one. Approaching the conclusion, I would like to emphasize the main challenges faced by the police peacekeeper training institutions in the specific domain of digital transformation, requirements of the IT and digital equipment to be provided and used by police peacekeepers once deployed. This is necessary in order to train the personnel exactly with the same kind of equipment they will be mandated to use in the field. The second major challenge is to allow police peacekeepers training institutions to use the command and control systems that are currently used in United Nations missions. I understand there could be some limitation due to the secrecy or copyright property and the exploitation of the software, but still it is clear that it would be quite more realistic and effective to familiarize the trainees with the very same tools they will have to use once deployed. The third major challenge is represented by the IT, information technology illiteracy of a significant number of police peacekeepers. In fact, it is almost impossible to fill this gap through a systematic transfer of knowledge in a highly specialized technologies in a very short period of time. On the other hand, the new native digital generations will probably spontaneously fill this void in the near future, limiting the need for training in the use of specific systems they are supposed to use. For training, these ideas were also discussed with improved teamwork, sense of belonging and cohesion, as well as cybersecurity, awareness and effective cyber hygiene practices, decidedly minimizing cyber threats and enhancing the security of the mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Barbano. Very big emphasis on training on cybersecurity, and he has also identified few challenges in the context of police training to enhance in digital environment. So next speaker is Brigadier General Khalil. Over to him.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning to all of you. As the Chief Instructor of BIPSOT here, I quite often deliver lecture from here, but don't see such a colorful audience. Normally I see green people in front of me. So thank you very much for being so colorful. And I will also request a big round of applause for me if I fall short and you don't applause at the end. Okay. Thank you very much for encouraging me. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Peacekeeping cannot ignore these facts, thus must transform to effectively perform the mandated task. The strategy for digital transformation calls for innovative, data-driven, and technology-enabled peacekeeping. The Action for Peace focuses on capacity building and exposure to new technologies. Distinguished audience, I shall share my experience on planning, conduct, and evaluation of training with the assistance of digital technology here at BIPSOT. BIPSOT is not a technologically very advanced institution, but we are trying to take the advantages offered by the technology. Few of the endeavors that we have made: first of all, the hybrid class conduct facility to allow trainees and the subject matter experts opportunity to attend or conduct training physically or virtually. We have developed hybrid class conduct facility. This auditorium is one of this kind. Sharing the experience of subject matter experts across the globe. In almost all the thematic courses conducted by BIPSOT, we connect subject matter experts virtually from across the globe. Digital Content Creating Studio, we have developed facility for making digital content called Digital Content Creation Studio, which is allowing our remote assessment and evaluation through VTC for pre-deployment training and other training where our evaluators cannot reach physically. We incorporate real-time update from the conflict zone and interaction with the persons on ground through virtual platform to enhance our training performance. We collaborate with other institutions specially for simulation-based CIED training. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not say that all these offers us maximum output, but every day we are learning and trying to develop. These arrangements are also allowing to think out of the box and creating indigenous solutions. Few of the challenges that we are facing in regards to digital transformation of training at BIPSOT are psyche of the trainees to avoid online learning and shyness in using the devices, especially from the senior trainees. Scarcity of peacekeeping operation training digital contents, especially in native language. Budgetary constraint, as initial IT infrastructure set up for training is expensive. Lack of UN-sponsored coordination and cooperation mechanism between peacekeeping training institutions. Develop a strategy to capacitate troops and police contributing countries in terms of digital transformation. United Nations may consider setting up IT infrastructure facility hubs for supporting online education and training for peacekeepers regionally. United Nations may develop digital training content for peacekeeping operation in multiple languages being considered on the number of peacekeepers deployed. Minimum level of IT literacy benchmark for peacekeeping deployment for troops and police contributing countries may be set by United Nations to encourage IT literacy and technology awareness amongst the peacekeepers. And finally, facilitating and encouraging bilateral and multilateral online cooperation for United Nations peacekeeping operation training by some central initiative under the banner of United Nations. IAPTC and regional peacekeeping training center associations may play a vital role in this regard. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient hearing.
Thank you, General Khalil. From the BIPSOT perspective, and which can be applied to any other military training institutions on peacekeeping, I think some of the things that they are doing can be used as the best practices.
In terms of training for peacekeeping institution from a civilian perspective. And so maybe a quick disclaimer that a lot of things I will say sometimes it will be based on my experience in the field, so I won't be generally speaking sometimes on behalf of USIP or the US government, or I also won't be speaking on behalf of some of the TCC I worked with, because I might use some of their information, but it was impromptu presentation, so there might not be permission from them to speak on some of the things we've said. But having said that, looking at some of the challenges we have on the field, I know a lot of things around digital has been spoken by DPO, the military perspective and the police perspective, so I won't be talking a lot about IT, software, but talking about the training itself in terms of development, curriculum, and all of that from the angle of pedagogy. And so looking at the opportunities, so I want to talk about the issue of training, curriculum development. So how do we develop our curriculum? So one of the challenges we've seen in the field is that most, that, for example, in most of the military institutions, it's about direct instruction. But sometimes there's a lot of educational work that needs to come into developing curriculum, and especially when the UN talked about protection of civilians. Protection of civilians should not be a content that stands alone. It should be what cut across everything that is being taught in the institution to prepare these peacekeepers for mission. But most times we see that the way curriculums are developed does not really take some of these things into constitutional, educational ways of doing things. And so we need to really look at how do we do curriculum development. And the next is the tactical versus soft skills. You see, I put the soft skills in quotation, because a lot of time we talk about soft skills, meaning that language we use is that see it as a toolkit. When you have a toolkit, when it's time to use the tactical skills, you open the bag and bring out the tactical skills. When it's also time to use your life skills, we don't like calling it, because it's life skills, every day we communicate. They engage with the community, they have a lot of things. So I've attended a couple of lessons learned workshops, and I noticed that when peacekeepers return, they say, oh, when we get there, it was difficult for us to engage with the community, to have conversation, because in the military, we've been, the training has been, sometimes the way we communicate is not, we call it, you don't speak with care. You don't listen with care. They've not been trained on how to listen. To listen is a skill they need to learn. To speak is a skill they need to learn. So we need to really incorporate that into our training. So how do you engage with the community? Most time, I think the UN have tried to correct that now with the engagement platoon. Before when they said the female engagement team, we just select 30 women or 5 women to be in the female engagement team and send them out to engage with the people. But we're beginning to see that everybody engage, both male and female. And so once we do that, it means there's a need to really work on curriculum. I love what the general talked about in terms of how do we develop some of this training. So it's important that we begin to spend, how do we do our pre-deployment training, we should spend on that. So this is the trust issue. We heard what happened in Congo, right? And that communities are beginning to become resentful of peacekeepers because over time, there's no more trust. And sometimes they need this soft skill to really build this community engagement, to engage with them, to have those interactions. And the ongoing issue again is who is a civilian? We keep talking about this. Who is a civilian? And looking at the changing world of warfare and the changing world of engagement, I think it's also a call to the UN to really again, or the Geneva Convention to definition of who is a civilian. I think it's not working for you. People that do the patrols and all of this engagement are NCOs, and sometimes based on the missions that I've worked with on the African continent, they are not literate enough. And so sometimes they don't even understand the mission mandate. The first day of class, the second day of class, you ask them, what's your mandate? You're going to MONUSCO, you are going for UNIMEN, you're going for armies. What is your mandate? They don't know the mandate. So some of them come only those week or pre-deployment training, we expect them to know the mandate. And sometimes you have mandates, they are bulky documents. You can have 14, 15, 18 pages and all of that. But those people don't know it. So how do we begin to redesign it, like you said, maybe do a little app or a video game that talks about the core part of their mission, maybe the 4 pillars, so we really need to address that. What does it mean to protect civilian? And the UN Secretary General talked about, when we talk about the A4P, it's all about also not just the digital content, but protection of civilian. What does it mean? What is the understanding for you to protect civilian? Because if we don't address that, who is a civilian, protection of civilian will begin to have this continued mistrust and resentment against the mission. So opportunity. I come back again to talk about training. I've started talking about that. The instructor cadre development. And I think by doing a partnership between how do we develop the instructors that deliver this training? I know that in military we have a lot of attrition. Sometimes after investing in this instructor, after 2 years, they move away from the institution because maybe they have been reassigned again to different mission field. And so sometimes it causes a lot of trouble. But how do we really do that? Maybe as we do our instructor cadre development, have institutional knowledge, things that can be documented so that it's easier to transfer to the next people that come after 2. Sometimes you're lucky, you see people in an institution for 4 years, for 7 years, but it's rare in mediation and community engagement. So they become like professional service provider that can be available to the institution. And from there, you begin to build that relationship between civilian and military, because once the military personnel go to the field, you engage with civilian more, most times, than even your military colleagues. So how do you begin to build that understanding before they go out to the field? So begin to do that. Then learning visits. We're encouraging that there should be learning visits amongst yourself. I think this conference is an opportunity to also learn and exchange with each other, but a lot has been shared here, and people have talked about how they develop each of their curriculum. Maybe after now you send 2 or 3 personnel to just visit, exchange ideas within yourself. Having those platforms is a very great way to really have opportunity to grow the curriculum with the central goal of protecting civilians. So I think I would like to stop there, just remembering that the biggest thing is about how do we develop our trainings and how do we really understand what does it mean to protect civilians, and how do we really incorporate in terms of our curriculum development to change away from just instructional led to begin to use a lot of adult learning principles to really ensure that this training goes with our officers to the field and they come back with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. And we are done with all the 4 speakers. Very important points came up from all the speakers, and I'm sure you have some questions or clarifications on some of the points. So we'll go.
Good morning, and this is Ambassador Abdel Latif, the Director General of the Cairo International Center for Conflict Resolution, Peacekeeping and Peacebuilding, CCCPA. I want to thank all the distinguished speakers for excellent presentations, and also reflecting on the day of yesterday. The more our conference advances, and the more we listen. Personally, the more I listen to the presentations on this issue, it is clear that this objective of digital transformation of peacekeeping is a task of Herculean nature, of huge magnitude, and raises challenges at many levels: policy levels, operational levels, training levels. And I think a task of this magnitude, particularly when we come then to the important point for TCCs, PCCs of leveling the playing field. I don't think that just saying that will be taken care of by partnerships or bilateral partnerships is in front of the nature, again, the magnitude of the task ahead would be enough. It's just such a scale that it needs really, and I would like to hear echo what Brigadier General Rahman said in his presentation on BIPSOT. And I think you made some very good suggestions to reflect upon, maybe.
The accord? Generally it was a comment, but if you need any response, then somebody can do it. So let's see. Yes, please.
Hello, Jonathan Sawyer, GPOI. Thank you to the panel. It was excellent. Benga, I have one question. It's mostly maybe directed for you, but for the group as a whole, and I'm sorry for my ignorance. The life skills, the soft skills, right, the communication, negotiations, does the UN have a curriculum, a standard curriculum for that, like we do, let's say, for UNSOC or other things? And if they don't, is that something you'd recommend that maybe is looked at to be done? So also for Mr. Peterson, I would assume. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Did you ask about soft skills development? Yeah, okay, so we'll get the response. Let me, yeah. Let me see if there is any more question. Yes, from the center block. Yes, please.
Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel Crawford. I'm the CEO of the Australian Peace Ops Training Centre. I want to make a probably controversial statement. In the last 3 years, we've developed a very successful online learning management system and have now hosted about 6 or 7 UN recognised courses. In the last, we'll force modernisation rather than, I'd say, digitisation to a level that brings you to a standard where you are not going to be disadvantaged on the battlefield in some of these UN missions. It'll be interesting to see if the panel has any comment. Over.
Thank you. Is there any more question?
Hello? Yes.
I'll take another
I have
one. Okay, 2, 3. Okay, let's get the response first from the previous ones. Mark, on the second question. From the GPOI.
Just to confirm, was that a question about negotiation curriculum or a soft skills curriculum?
Yes, so I think he was directing the question.
Sorry. So it was about when Benga was speaking, both, right? So the training that USIP does that we found to be quite necessary during our exercise is the UN. It cannot be answered now. I appreciate it might not be able to be answered now, but is there is the UN looking at maybe incorporating that into training writ large?
Thank you. So in answer to the question, for ordinary practitioner level negotiations, we're reliant very much on member state support. We look in particular to Sweden to deliver that, but also to Switzerland. At the higher level, we also to Switzerland, as well as the senior leadership induction program for people who've been appointed, and into the force command.
That MS, the member states should take responsibility. But again, there is, if you consider the full spectrum, the level of or capacities of various member states or the troop contributing countries, they vary so much. So their dependence on other organizations like United Nations is there, will have to be there. There has to be a need for partnership as well. And I also totally agree that force modernization has to be looked in rather than only in isolation, the focus on digital transformation. Okay, other questions, please?
Sorry, General, can I just...
Yes,
sure.
Mark
okay. Said, so what Jonathan asked, so because Jonathan requested, I think also the core pre-deployment curriculum of UN recommended negotiation and mediation as a basic kind of training that the TCC needs to provide for their troops before going, and so including a lot of other countries like the UK and the US government makes it as a mandate to the package that they give to this TCC. And so some of those training is what USIP has developed in partnership with GPOI that will give to those troop contributing countries in Africa that deploys to either AU or UN missions on the continent. But sometimes again, some of them, to give credit to the TCC, they also make plans to look for opportunities to provide this training for their officers. And so maybe the recommendation will be at that larger level to just update those curriculum, because sometimes for some TCC, if there's no big elaborate content in the UN curriculum, sometimes they don't do it. So maybe the UN can also really emphasize to have that in this corporate.
Yes, please.
My question will be for Mr. Peterson. So would you be clear of the purpose to divide the UN contingent and UN-owned equipment and contingent-owned equipment, and European obligatory and mandatory for all member states comply with this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question I can take. Just one last. Yes, please, sir. At the back.
Thank you very much. I'm representing the organization Hiroshima Peace Builder Center in Japan. I have a question to Mr. Mark Peterson. You mentioned the Trilateral Partnership Program, or TPP, or collaboration among member countries, United Nations, implementers, contingents, and so on. But when it comes to digitalization, there are some particular complexities like device provisions and so on. And training centers ought to be equipped with devices, very much advanced technical levels. So it may to make provisions of devices as well as equipment on the side of training courses that the digitalization issues may make these issues more complex. I would like to hear about your views on this point. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mark, over to you. You have 3 questions. Thank you.
Three questions in 3 minutes. Okay, on the hate speech missile, a 2-year project, we're in the very early stages. On the question about UN-owned equipment and contingent-owned equipment, this is very much a discussion which the contingent-owned equipment working group will have to tackle in January next year as we try to sort out exactly what the next stages are on this issue. And for the last question, I just want to make sure I've got it right, and just nod if I have. Was the key point here that digitalization is making training more complicated? Yes. So the simple yes. So the simple answer to that is yes. Before we embarked on our own move down the hybrid path, we spent some time with Serbia, which has a very well-developed online training platform, and we had the opportunity to review how they were delivering online training. And online training and digitalization to deliver training carries with it significant costs. There's the equipment costs, there's the training costs for bringing the instructors up. You need to have redundancy in your Wi-Fi networks. You need to have somebody who can manage the technical aspects as well as deliver the training. So this is not a case of somebody sitting in their spare bedroom with a laptop on their knee creating a training program. It is actually highly expensive and has a significant upfront costs and maintenance costs. We've just completed 8 hours of online training for the National Investigation Officers course, and this is a program intended to provide troop contributing countries with the capacity to investigate allegations of sexual exploitation and abuse, capable or unmotivated. So, very long answer to a short question. Yes, digitalization is going to make things more costly and it's going to make things more expensive, and in some cases it may make things take longer.
Thank you very much. With that, we come to the end of this session 1 of day 2. And I thank all the panel members for their excellent talk and also their responses to various questions that you had. So you will have the summary. It will be probably posted in the website where the takeaway points, main points will be included, and what we can, how we can build on those points that we had discussed here. Thank you very much for the patience that you have shown, and I did not overshoot much. Thank you very much, and let's over to the master of the ceremony. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now there will be a short ceremony of handing over of the crest to the distinguished moderators. And Now our chief instructor will hand over the gift to the moderator.
Sir, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now we have a 30 minutes coffee break, and the next session will start at 11 a.m. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he did an excellent. We're reviewing the quarterly material next year.
ট্রেনিং এটা দেখতেছো এখন ম্যানুয়াল এটা আমার তৈরি করা আমার তৈরি আমার ফার্স্টে বাংলা এটা কাজ শুরু করছিলাম 2011-তে 2012-তে প্রেজেন্ট
If there are some other financial regulation, things are more complicated. So this is a bit sensitive about the colleagues. Just But anyway, there's one colleague from MOFA in this conference. So at some point, I would like to have a chat with you on SML, which is scheduled to take place in June next year. Correct. Yeah, just to have a chat. But it's appropriate, perhaps, if there is a colleague to have you. But how long are you going to stay here?
Until Thursday night.
Thursday night. Okay.
2 more days.
Yeah.
So SML, please make sure be in touch with my colleague on this tonight. We can maybe talk tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, but I just intend to have just a chat. But if I can have correct information, yeah, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you again.
Thank you very much.
We've moved too. We're in a different building now. The last time we met, we were in DC1.
Yes. Do you know that I showed up in March 2020 when the people began to evacuate? I met your colleague, Italian colleague?
Yes,
Eduardo. Yes. I had a conversation very recently on next year's SML. But I'm keen to come back to New York when things are right. But anyway, thank you very much.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Can you listen to me? Sir, Dr. Alter? Yes, sir. Sir, now you can have a test. If you want to play your video, you can have a test. Yes, sir. Clear, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear. We can hear you, sir. Yes, sir. You can just now you can test PowerPoint, video, everything. Okay, sir. Not yet, sir. Now you can see your PowerPoint, sir.
Okay, screen sharing has been stopped because the screen is closed.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Can you listen to us? Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Can you listen to us?
Yes, I can hear you now. There's a bit of delay, but 5 seconds delay. Can you see the simulation now?
Hi, রাজীব ওই যে একটা রিকোয়েস্ট আসছে ওই যে
Sir, we can listen the.
না না পরে Hello, sir. Oh, sure. They are waiting for you.
Oh, for me? Sorry. How are you? No, it's not. How are you? I'm in the panel 5 in the afternoon, and I was told that I had to bring the presentation. Can I give it to you?
You have 5 point?
It's about, yeah, I have both PowerPoint and PDF.
No. Session 5 point?
Oh, you have this.
I will.
Yeah. You can have perhaps by my name. I'm calling Carlos.
So you're 5.2, yes.
5.2. So I'm the second to present, right?
Yes.
Oh, great. So you can rename the file, yeah. I'm so sorry if I'm late because I was not aware of it. How are you?
Simulation now.
Yes, sir. The video is on now. তোমার স্যারকে যে জিজ্ঞেস করো।
Good morning. How are you? No, no, continue. This is wise. To it. No, it's not with you the question. The first day, the day before starting, I came here with my PowerPoint, that is the small one, black one, and I forgot it here. If your person, the day before yesterday, before starting on, the night before we came here, with a small pen drive. Don't worry, if it is disappear, information list. Yes. At the entrance.
Yes.
Okay.
I will search again.
I have another one, don't worry.
But if I get, I will keep it in the information list.
Okay. It may be there. It may be there now. I will check.
Session 5? Session 5? Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, we are still watching the video, sir. Now you can close that. We are still watching the video, sir. Now you can close that. Yes, sir. It will be okay. I will use PowerPoint. And the slide changer will be there on the dial. You can use. Yes, it is. That's great.
Thank you very much. So this is like, and we have laser pointer. Oh, great. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll be in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Share screen.
Dr. Walter, sir. Dr. Walter. এই হোসনেরা
জি স্যার
আমাকে শুনবে না সে
আপনি তো এই যে দেখাচ্ছে স্যার এখন
না না আমাকে শুনবে না কি সে Dr. Walter, sir, can you hear me?
Good morning, sir. Sir, can you listen to our master of the ceremony?
Hello, check. Dr. Walter, can you hear us? On mute. Thank you.
Checking, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you loud and clear, but please keep your microphone mute during this time.
Yes, sir, I can hear you loud and clear, but please keep your microphone mute. Yes, understood.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা রাইট বাট আমি তো এখন কথা বলতে হবে একজন ওনাকে বলছি মিউট করতে
ভিতরে আমার একটা অফিসারকে বলতেছে একটু ডিল করতে। ঠিক আছে ওকে স্যার। María. Okay, thank you.
You have some arrangement to call them back.
Sir.
অ্যাডেড, উনি এখান থেকে চেঞ্জ করলে করতে পারবেন।
ঠিক আছে, বাট এলিজাবেথ তো
ওটির তো হ্যাঁ করা আছে স্যার, ওনারটাও আপনার স্লাইডেই অ্যাড করা আছে।
না স্যার খুঁজতেছে সে কোথায়। শোনো, শোনার আগে তোমার এই যে মাইক্রোফোনওয়ালাগুলোকে পাঠিয়ে দিবা যে ইংলিশ একটা শিখে দেবে, স্যার প্লিজ মুভ টু দি কল, মুভ ফর নেক্সট সেশন, মুভ ফর নেক্সট সেশন, চারটা কথা জলদি প্লিজ মুভ ফর নেক্সট সেশন। আর এখনকার সৈনিক স্মার্ট আছে, ভুল শিখলেই শিখে দিই। আমি Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Our session for today is on partnership and cooperation in delivering training in digital era. Probably you will all agree that partnership and cooperation in delivering training in digital era is invaluable. In some cases, we may even say that today, while the whole world is interconnected, training in digital era is a year-long tour in Democratic Republic of Congo. In 2010 to 2011, initially he served as the military assistant to the force commander of MONUSCO at the Forward Force Headquarters. Later, he took over as the chief of staff of a multinational brigade headquarters in capital Kinshasa. The general was a pioneer member of the Overseas Operation Directorate of Bangladesh Army, where he contributed in formulating important operational doctrine, policy, and directives. He led the Bangladesh delegation during the MOU negotiation with the United Nations Department of Peace Operation for deployment to MINUSCA. He was also a member of the National Evaluation Team for operational readiness of the Bangladeshi contingents to UNMIL. A graduate of UK Joint Services Command and Staff College and United States Army War College, Major General Ridwan served as the focal point at Bangladesh Army Headquarters for all bilateral military cooperation and engagements in 2019 and 2020. He is currently the head of the ASEAN Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers Secretariat and will assume the presidency of International Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers. We have no doubt that given his involvement with peacekeeping missions in his illustrious career, he would be the best person to moderate this important session. Without further ado, may I now request General Ridwan to begin this session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
And I can see Walter Don. Welcome to the session, sir. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I, Major General Ridwan, welcome you all to the fourth plenary session titled Partnership and Cooperation in Delivering Training in Digital Era. So it's kind of a sequel of the main theme where it was peacekeeping in the digital era. Now we are narrowing down our focus to the training itself. I'd like to begin this session by quoting Mr. Artul Khare, who is the Undersecretary General of Department of Operational Support, who said on partnership, I quote, "We are committed to enhancing and expanding partnerships on specialized capacities through the Triangular Partnership Program. We leverage the Partnership for Technology in Peacekeeping initiative by engaging with member states and academia in identifying technology solutions to address current peacekeeping operational challenges." And from the beginning of the annual conference yesterday, throughout this session to the third session, we have often come across and understood the importance of training for the peacekeepers to be proficient in executing and implementing the mission mandates. And as I say, the training itself is a challenging issue, and the challenges are rather complicated. And today, as you have already heard, we have three speakers. Dr. Walter Don from Royal Military College of Canada and the Canadian Force College. Then we have Ms. Jennifer Pulliam, Program Director, Global Peace Operation Initiative GPOI of the United States Department of State. And we have Ms. Elizabeth Rosenbaum from Peace Operation Training Institute, POTI, in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce the speakers and hand over the session, a few generic guidelines. The modality of the session, like the other sessions, this session will be conducted in two phases. In phase one, there will be a plenary brief by the three speakers, followed by a short question and answer. And the speakers will talk about roughly 10 minutes. After the first session, we will go to the phase two, which is the breakout session, which will be for around 30-35 minutes. We'll have three multifunctional breakout sessions for this session. The first group, multifunctional group, will be dealt by Dr. Walter Don, and that will be conducted here after the plenary. The other multifunctional group is for those who are interested on Peace Operation Training Initiative. So they will go to the breakout room 2, and the third breakout room will be for those who are interested on Global Peace Operation Initiative GPOI. So you'll have the guides after the plenary session to guide you to the respective breakout rooms. Now, about the first speaker, Dr. Walter, 2010. As a consultant in 2014 with the UN Department of Peace Operation on the expert panel on technology and innovation in UN peacekeeping. He has many books, two most notable ones. Firstly, Air Power in UN Operation, Wings for Peace. I'm sure Air Vice Marshal Benny and those who are from the Air Force will be interested to have that book. And the second book was Keeping Watch, Monitoring Technology Innovation in UN Peace Operations. Today, he will present his research and development work on digital simulation of peacekeeping for training and education. As we talk about digitalization, integration of digitalization training curriculum, I think me and all those who are from the peacekeeping training institutes will be looking forward to hear from him. So without further ado, I hand over the floor to Dr. Walter Don. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, General. I appreciate your warm introduction, and to the distinguished representatives and friends in IAPTC and FlipSat, I give you my warm greetings. I'm coming to you from Toronto, Canada, at this unusual conferencing hour of 1:50 a.m. And I feel like I'm getting jet lagged even without the jet. But this is an example of I'm getting jet lagged even without the jet. But we may find there's some delay in communications, and we have some problems with the evolving. So I'm going to actually give you a demonstration of the simulation itself after a very brief introduction on the power plant. I originally started teaching about technology, engineering, and modern peacekeeping at the Pearson Peacekeeping Center at the turn of the century. And I've continued to teach peace operations courses at the Joint Command and Staff level for the last 20 can apply in peacekeeping, and I've done work to look at how the technology in the field could be improved. But I wanted to particularly develop some technology myself as an operational professor to see how it could be used in peace operations and for training. But many of my students train in virtual battle space for battles and for convoy coordination and other tasks. And I always wondered to myself, why can't we do something similar in the peacekeeping area? Just as there are thousands of video games for warfighting, can't we create some video games for peacekeeping that can be used for educating the general public as well as training military officers? So I did some of the early work to study the idea, but just studying it and writing papers about it was not enough. I had to have the impulse to do something that would make a difference or help the United Nations, and then to see whether this concept could actually work in practice. If we know it works in theory, we don't know whether it works in practice. So we did develop several prototypes from military observer, specialized training materials, the STM materials that Mark Bedson, who we just heard from, is responsible for. We can also do untold materials and human rights and other types of simulations, including some that are very specific to actual scenarios that we're seeing in certain operations. You can play this in multiple environments on different devices, and in the future we hope to have a virtual reality version of the simulation. It can be done currently at the individual level, but in the future we can also foresee that it can be done on the collective level, whereby you have many players playing at the same time, even these massive multiplayer role-playing games. But in the world today, I've actually at one point brought more than 1 million people together to play a simulation. So the technology exists to do that. One of the advantages is that you can record and you can actually get automatic assessment during the simulations. You get automatic feedback. And the simulations don't have to be played in isolation. They can actually be played in the classroom where students interact with each other at the physical level as well as in the simulation itself. And what we can see is cost effectiveness because you can educate thousands of people with the simulation just by distributing it, for instance, for free. And the simulation can then be used by those people, and upgrades can be also sent around. So you have the scalability that makes it potentially quite cost effective. And again, I emphasize the value. The website for the simulation is peacekeepingsim.com. And I'll just mention that I am looking at developing a simulation for a course that I'm developing for the Peace Operations Training Institute, POTI. I'm developing a course on technology in peace operations there. So just bear with me as I switch screens and I put on the simulation so you get an actual view of the simulation itself. So I'll be playing the simulation live, and you'll get a sense of the steps, but I'll be doing a very reduced version of the simulation. So here we have various modules and settings. Including the settings are language settings, so we're able to play in different languages. Other modules, I'll play the first one, which is called Atrocity in Maryland. Again, based on the tabletop exercise, the unknown STM. And we take some of the material and we gamify it. So we have 4 scenes, including a brief from the chief, that's the chief military observer. We have preparing to go outside the wire, investigating the actual atrocity, and reporting on the atrocity in the form of a cycle. I'll start with a brief from the chief and get a rough sense of how it's conveyed. It starts off with an induction briefing, which is a PowerPoint. Here at the beginning, you can choose your avatar. We have 2 now, but we're planning to have 6 very soon. We also represent
government on the protection of civilians. This past month has seen an upsurge in tension. As an unknown, you are at the centre of the mission. In a land where truth is constantly in dispute, your job is to get the facts straight. The mission's organisational chart is as follows. Adds to the assignments. Your UN camp is near the village of Mermelin, training materials for unknowns. Be forewarned, things may not be what they seem. You must figure out the conflict dynamics. Beware of extremists and the spoilers of the peace process. At the same time, you will need to deal with them, as they are also part of the peace process. We have arranged for you to fly from mission headquarters to your individual team sites. I will travel immediately to Team Site 2 to deal with the situation there. Lieutenant Colonel Kinai, you will join shortly thereafter. Thank you all and good luck.
Scenario, and in each successive scene, you gain more power over the open world scenario. So when you land, you can actually look around and you can control the and around the camp that we have. And the first meeting is one with the chief military observer. So here.
Welcome to Team Site 2, Lieutenant Colonel Kinai.
You'll see this done in a much simpler fashion. And in the pop-up, we get some alert that there's been some kidnappings being done. And then you...
That's pretty standard.
You'll be choosing some of the answers about what's happening.
Things have gotten worse.
And I'll skip through some of the answers here about acquiring the...
Understood. What about the transport of your unknowns and...
There's an opportunity to learn about different types of aeromedical evacuation and medevac helicopters. In this case, we'll choose the armored personnel.
It looks like you've got a good understanding of what's needed. Oh, I see a flash report on our Unitaware system. You probably are receiving it too. This is serious. We've got to investigate ASAP. See if there are violations of the ceasefire or of human rights. Most importantly, find out who's responsible. UN police may come later, but for now, the initial investigation is yours.
So at this point, we learned there are 6 villagers abducted, and there may be a revenge attacks planned. So there's a necessity to undertake the investigation very quickly. And you can decide to do a variety of things. Well, in this case, we'll assemble a team, and you have to decide who would be on the team, and we take the nationals from 2 or more countries.
Yes, that is the UN rule.
And
you are ready to go. I look forward to your return. Once you've written up the report, I'll read it with great interest.
At this point, the control goes to the player and use the standard WSD keys to call you as you make the task. And we also have dialogue with some of the team members at different points. So you start the investigation. You find yourself at the checkpoint. So we teach some lessons about what to do at checkpoints and how to interact and the options of different levels of show of force. So here we have a decision. You send the escort first or alone, or you do it, in this case, we'll do it together. And escort behind. And then the avatar, you can actually walk anywhere here if you want to, but we'll the guards and start a conversation with them.
Hello. We've been expecting you blue helmets. In Kosi, the Butu knows you will help investigate the KLM attack. We'll drive you there.
So you have to choose how to respond. You can choose the way that challenges or the degrees, but it's politely declines. Generally, we take the attitude of firm, fair, and friendly.
As you wish. However, you must always take permission in advance from the Butu when visiting.
So you have to explain what the status of forces you're making.
Follow me. The Nkosi has ordered me to escort your team.
And
it is for your own safety.
There's an option now to look at the materials inside of the specialized training materials, and you'll get a one of this, so you can go to the actual training materials and learn from them during the simulation.
They also looked at my home.
But the guard doesn't want you to speak about it.
Shut up, woman.
So you have to decide how you handle this delicate situation.
My name is Isabel. I need to get my husband and 5 children back.
So you can find out
far away in the fields where my husband was working. I could see 4 or 5 armed men walk them away at gunpoint. Some of the kidnappers were the kids. It's related to the cows, but it's not safe to speak in front of the guards. Please come by my house soon. We don't have much time.
Shut up and leave before there is trouble.
So you can see that there's already tensions in the village, and they have to go figure out what to force those tensions, while at the same time trying to protect the village from any retributions. And there's conflicting characters.
Do not believe a word this woman says. She is a liar and a thief. She steals rice and yams from other than thank you, sir. Come, let's go to the chief himself.
So rather than taking you through the village and the different clues, I'll just take you back to the vehicle, and here, for instance, you see that one of your unloads has discovered something.
I see some shell casings right there. Should we take a picture? Interesting. The KLM attackers used Kalashnikovs with 7.62mm rounds. Where did the 5.56mm rounds come from? Please give me a copy of your investigative report so I can pass it along.
And the vehicle was down for burn. In cases of abducted civilians, reports of shootings and robberies. So you can go through this, and the students will take the options, look and choose between different answers, level of certainty about if you're engaged in a violent conflict, so you can say almost certain. And once you've filled out this form, then you get the responses, the green being the correct ones, the red being incorrect ones, where in this case most of them are blank because I haven't filled them out. And you can actually come to a point where you get your score, your findings in your report, as well as your assessment. And then we give you an idealized report about what it would look like, what a good unload report would look like after investigation. And that completes the first simulation, which I'm very pleased to show you. And we've done other simulations, but this one is one that I think would be particularly appropriate for unload courses and for training centers. Those who might want to pick it up. And hopefully the UN itself will want to be able to use this similar operations for some of their training and trainers courses. This is an effort to provide a service to the UN, and I thank you very much for your attention so that we can all work together towards using new digital medium to make peacekeeping training more effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dorn. Especially thanks for showing this attractive demonstration. It is encouraging to note that you have incorporated different levels from individual to collective. To introduce her shortly. Ms. Elizabeth Rosenbaum is currently the Deputy Director of Peace Operation Training Institute. She has a diverse background of working in different capacity. Initially, in her early career, he worked as an analyst for Bulletin Intelligence, where she conducted analysis of breaking news to provide highly customized daily news briefings for clients, including the White House and the top US government officials. She also worked for a community development organization in Managua, Nicaragua, where she directed 4 programs focused on health and education. Prior to joining POTI, she served for nearly 5 years at the United States Institute of Peace, USIP, where she worked to develop and implement that institute's online learning platforms for peace builders. She collaborated on the design and development of more than 20 online courses and managed programs budget monetization strategy with multiple groups. So with that, Mrs. Elizabeth Rosenbaum, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Major General Rahman. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Rosenbaum, and today I am honored to share with you about the Peace Operations Training Institute. I will describe the programs we offer and the partnerships we have, and discuss how we work to enhance accessibility to effective e-learning, our dedication to accessibility, and how we are preparing for the future. Nope. Got it. Our board of directors, some of whom are here today, govern our activities to ensure POTI training is useful to peace operations personnel on the ground. We are also overseen by the Partnership for E-Learning on Peace Operations, or PELP, a group of UN member states with a rotating chairmanship. PELP serves as a forum wherein key nations invested in the delivery of e-learning on peace operations may provide input and share ideas on how e-learning should best be provided to the peace operations community. This partnership is invaluable in working to enhance effective e-learning. Centers, permanent missions, and UN agencies are also invited to participate in meetings. POTI offers e-learning courses on topics such as gender awareness, human rights, the protection of civilians, cultural property protection, health, mine awareness, and child protection, among others. Our training builds solid, practical knowledge of United Nations peace operations and related topics. We are able to offer this full set of courses that cover these priority areas thanks to our ongoing collaboration with UNESCO, UNMAS, UN Women, the WHO, the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, King's College London Center for Military Ethics, as well as national peacekeeping training centers and course authors such as experienced academics, peace operations personnel, 4 of our courses are created with course materials sourced directly from the United Nations Peacekeeping Resource Hub under a revocable license issued by and learn about these types of opportunities. We're very grateful to all of our partners that help us create these courses on priority topics. POTI provides access to e-learning to all those interested in the study of peace support operations. Ensuring accessibility to effective e-learning means removing any barriers to training, and those barriers include cost. Currently, 19 out of our 31 courses offer free tuition to everyone. Furthermore, POTI offers various programs through which it shares its e-learning curriculum at no cost to students or centers. All AU, EU, and UN mission personnel, civilians, military, and police, and military, police, and gendarme, as well as students and staff of national peacekeeping training centers in African, Latin American, and Caribbean, and select Asian nations are able to take our courses free of charge. Because of this, more than 99% of all of our enrollments are offered at no cost to the student. Currently, we partner with around 49 national and regional peacekeeping training centers through our National Training Center e-learning platform program. Under this program, centers blend POTI e-learning into their classroom training programs. The centers with the most enrollments thus far in 2022 are listed on the screen, and many of you are here today, and we're so grateful for your partnership. These partnerships truly have greatly increased accessibility to POTI's resources. So now that I've shared what POTI is and some of the work that we do, I'd like to discuss how we place great emphasis in all of our work on enhancing accessibility to effective e-learning. POTI has created and uses a very accessible model. This allows us to average around 100,000 emerging course supplements. But as we do this, we're intensely and focused on ensuring that those who do not have access to this technology yet can still use our course materials. Here are some of the ways we are working to ensure our courses are effective and accessible. One way to increase accessibility is translations. We offer courses in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic. While this has greatly expanded our accessibility and audience, we face the challenge of offering courses in more languages, including local dialects for many peace operations personnel. We have been encouraging staff of peacekeeping training centers that have the ability and capacity to help translate some of our courses. For example, Brazil's Naval Peace Operations Training Center has very graciously translated 2 courses into Portuguese for us and is in the process of translating another. Partnerships such as these greatly help us to increase accessibility. POTI also offers a mobile student classroom app to supplement the user experience. The app is available in English and French and will very soon be released in Spanish. Offering mobile options allows students to take courses more easily. However, our course experience right now, to be honest, is better when it's taken on a larger screen. Our courses are long and they can be wordy. So one challenge we are working on is how to improve the mobile experience of our courses as more and more users choose to use mobile options. Another example of course supplements that we have are audiobooks and e-publications. The audiobook format allows for audiobooks an audio version of the course and listen to it on their device. We created this option to increase accessibility for students whose downloads will be more difficult for some students. We've talked about this already at this conference in the breakout rooms, where we're serving a large audience here, and there's really a wide spectrum of what people are able to access and use, especially in the field. So when creating all of these course supplements, we're considering the downloadability of these files, and one way we're working on this is by offering them in increments so they're easier to download. This demonstrates how we're working to utilize advances in technology while also considering accessibility. As we create these new modules, we will ensure also that any content used always exists in a text-based format that is available for students to download. They'll always be completely supplementary, meaning that students who cannot access them will be at no disadvantage whatsoever in the learning experience when it comes to content covered in the final course examination. All of these components of our courses that I have shared demonstrate how POTI is dedicated to enhancing accessibility to effective e-learning. As technology continues to advance, partnerships within the peace operations community will aid us in staying up to date with the best, most effective methods of offering e-learning. We aim to offer a spectrum of accessibility to content so we can reach the maximum amount of peace operations personnel who have dedicated their lives to peace. I'd like to briefly thank our generous funders without whom none of this would be possible. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Rosenbaum. Thank you for the nice presentation. So I must thank POTI for the benevolent initiative and offering support to the training communities, even training individuals at almost. Thank POTI for the I'm sure thinking of or bringing this technology and innovations into the training curriculum. So thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Rosenbaum, and thank you, POTI, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we would like to switch over to our last speaker, Ms. Jennifer Pulliam, Program Director, Global Peace Operation Initiative. For the next 10 minutes, she is going to talk about JPOI initiatives for the peacekeeping training community. Before she takes the floor, let me have the privilege to introduce her very shortly. Ms. Jennifer Pulliam, the Program Director of JPOI, United States Department of Peace Operation, is serving in the Peace Operation Capacity Building Division Chief as the Capacity Building Division Chief in the Bureau of Political and Military Affairs Office of Global Program and Initiative at the United States Department of State. In this role, she serves as the Program Director of the US JPOI and also the African Peacekeeping Rapid Response Partnership, APRRP. JPOI and APRRP are securing assistance programs focused on building international capacity to effectively conduct United Nations and regional peacekeeping operations. Through these programs, the U.S. partners with nearly 50 troops and police contributors, as well as the United Nations, to provide training, advisory support, equipment, facilities construction, and other technical assistance to enable the more effective generation, preparation, deployment, and sustainment of peacekeeping forces. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll cut it short here, but I must make a special mention that this multi-purpose training. Ladies and gentlemen,
several IAPTC conferences in the past, and I always leave these events incredibly inspired by the work that we're collectively doing to contribute to more effective peace operations. So I'm delighted to be here once among many familiar faces to exchange ideas and best practices. Let me begin by thanking Bangladesh, particularly General Ridwan and his team here at VIPSOT for hosting this year's event and for inviting me to participate on this panel. Bangladesh and the United States share a long-standing and effective peacekeeping capacity building partnership. So thank you, it's a pleasure and really exciting to actually be here in the center. The last time I was here, it was under construction, so it's just fantastic to come back and be a part of an event at the center. And as an aside, I have to take a minute to thank you and the team for the amazing reception last night and dinner. Thank you so much for your hospitality. I also wish to thank Peru as the IAPTC president, as well as the entire IAPTC executive committee for navigating this organization through the tumultuous years of the pandemic, and for planning a substantive agenda to drive this week's discussions. For those who maybe aren't familiar with GPOI, the Global Peace Operations Initiative is a assistance program that is budgeted through the U.S. Department of State and implemented in close partnership with our U.S. Department of Defense. And our sole purpose is to invest in the capabilities of countries and the UN to strengthen UN and regional peacekeeping operations. The United States is increasingly identifying ways to leverage technology to enhance the effectiveness of our training and capacity building activities. I'd like to highlight a few examples here, but I'd also like to offer a few lessons learned, which I hope we can probe further during the breakout discussions. Modern advancements have catalyzed the global movement toward digitalization, and when we think about digitalization in the peace operations training context, we often think about a shift to virtual training. Like many of your countries, the pandemic motivated us to transition some of our training events to virtual platforms. And even now, as the pandemic has loosened its grip and we're able to do more in person, we continue to leverage these platforms to enable hybrid training options where appropriate. To be sure, digital technology provides a valuable opportunity to reach wider audiences and deepen their learning experiences. Particularly when it comes to education on peacekeeping topics, conducting classroom-based training in a virtual or hybrid format can yield efficiencies. It can reduce costs associated with convening courses, accommodate larger number and broader group of participants, and reduce the logistical and administrative burdens associated with travel. But what we really learned from the pandemic is that for practical or skills-based requirements, virtual events can't replace in-person training. The virtual model is not as effective a mechanism for training that requires hands-on practical exercises. For example, for a mechanism for training, trainees arrived to the course with a baseline knowledge of the training topic, and it allowed instructors to focus in-person time on the practical application of the material. This is a model that GPOI may look to replicate in other courses. Beyond hybrid training, I wanted to highlight a couple of other examples that we've integrated using value-added technology to build on our capacity building assistance. We're increasingly employing simulation technology to enable more realistic training experiences for peacekeepers. For example, we've delivered medical patient simulators to a number of partner countries to provide peacekeepers with more practical training on triaging, administering first aid, and stabilizing patients. Providing more opportunities for a hands-on simulated practice of medical skills can significantly help address known shortfalls with respect to medical capabilities and ultimately saves peacekeepers' lives. The integration of simulation technology can also be valuable in building other basic soldier and staff skills. One of the most common shortfalls our training partners cite is the lack of training weapons, and particularly training ammunition. This means that uniformed peacekeepers don't always have adequate opportunities to develop basic marksmanship or weapon skills, which, among other issues, increases the risk that undertrained soldiers or police units will either be reluctant to engage in protection of civilians' operations, or they will employ excessive force out of fear and uncertainty. Through GPOI, we're providing some partner training facilities with firearms training simulators, fear and uncertainty, and force peacekeepers to fall in on mission equipment that they have no prior experience operating, maintaining, or employing. One increasingly predominant example of this is the use of tactical unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, which are being deployed particularly by infantry battalions in some UN missions. Such technology is beneficial on multiple fronts, potentially enhancing the safety and security of peacekeepers and better enabling intelligence-driven operations. But oftentimes, units lack the same equipment at their training facilities. They're subsequently forced to adopt technology they haven't previously trained on, rendering it difficult to operate or maintain that equipment. More notably, the unit staff often don't fully understand how to effectively integrate the technology into operations, how to incorporate the capabilities into operational planning, and analyze and action the information that's provided. Accordingly, through GPOI, the United States is working to replicate such technologies in the training environment to help bridge performance gaps. It brings me to 3 points or lessons learned that I'd like to emphasize in closing. The first is this importance of ensuring that any technology that's employed in the mission environment is replicated in the respective home station training sites. And this is one area where the importance of partnerships can really factor in, particularly in terms of establishing capacity building partnerships through which donor partners help support troop and police contributing country efforts to ensure that their training tools mirror mission requirements. This is on our monitoring and evaluation efforts, which we view as an integral component of our programming. Particularly in the context of employing new technology solutions, it will be important to gather baseline data, pilot the capabilities, and conduct follow-up assessments and analysis to determine if the capabilities are achieving their intended results. Data-driven processes in the digital and technology space will help ensure that the most productive returns on our collective investment of resources are accomplished. I'll stop there, but again, I'd like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to contribute to the topic, and I look forward to our follow-on discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer Pulliam. So we have again heard a couple of very attractive initiatives from GPOI in terms of hybrid training, not only hybrid training, the simulation technology integration. She emphasized on the requirement of baseline data and the due diligence so that it can be improved upon. Looking at the speakers or hearing from the speakers yesterday and even today, I would reiterate what yesterday in one of the breakout session I mentioned, that it is evident that there are people, institutions, partners who are developing very time-worthy projects, modules for the training community. But what is necessary at this moment is at policy level, maybe by the ITS, to find out or wasting our efforts in reinventing something which someone has already done for me. It is better to find out ways how can I access it with ease and develop on that. So ladies and gentlemen, as you look at the watch, we really do not have time for the Q&A session. So with looking at the time, what I would suggest is we close the plenary here, and I would request you to move on to the breakout sessions so that there you have more time to get the panelists in person and ensure that your questions and queries are addressed. So with that, I thank once again to Dr. Walter Dorn, Ms. Elizabeth Rosenbaum, and Ms. Jennifer Pulliam for being with us and for the seminal speech. So with that, the plenary session is over. Now, I would request all of you to quickly settle down to your respective breakout sessions. The placards for POTI and GPOI are on the two corners. The guides will be guiding you. So those who wants to interact with Dr. Walter Dorn, you can remain here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So Dr. Walter Dorn, give us 5-10 minutes so that So Dr. Walter Dorn, give it down and give the floor to you. Starts at 12:30, so the time is yours. Can we please settle down?
Test now with Zoom to see if I can get a response in Zoom.
So if you have any question to what Dr. Walter Don, he is there to answer. Please raise your hand.
Hello? Okay. Hello, I'm Major Ken McCrae. I'm the deputy at the Peace Support Training Center. Can you hear me? Hello, I'm Major Ken McCrae. I'm the deputy at the Peace Support Training Center. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, there's a definite delay or lag on this. I'm very interested in the simulation software that you've developed, particularly where we are the ones who... There's a bad lag here. We at PSTC are the ones that offer the UNMO training for the CAF. Have you reached out or worked or done anything with the PSTC, in particular the UNMO people who run this course? I go back to the lady's point where she said it's very important to synchronize and implement not just the simulation, but really the home-based training. So I think it'd be extremely useful for our perspective that we talk and discuss, because I think this is something that our unit would be definitely benefit from, is our unit would be in our UNMO training.
I was just having a discussion here before about there not being a forum to discuss simulation, certainly in the peace operations space. As you know, we've got our own project. Ours is more of a part task, semi-collective training system. It uses a virtual vehicle patrol, but it's more controlled by your directing staff with the ability to stop, pause, inject different complexities to the various scenarios we develop. We also inject the ability to walk away from the screen and use an avatar, a live avatar, to simulate incidents such as coming to a vehicle checkpoint managed by child soldiers and the like. So I think the opportunities are endless in terms of simulation. My point being, I don't know of any forums or groups out there for us to discuss what we're all doing and synchronise our efforts over. I'd be keen to get your comment.
No, I understood fine. I can understand the phone. Okay. Yeah, thank you.